is Sharon Cullen Art. Today I'm going to be talking to you about sword and dagger brushes. What the differences are, the similarities, how they get their name, and how they're used as an artist. So first of all, I wanted to show you the differences and how they appear. These are the three that I own, and you can see great differences in the brushes. I'm trying to get them all lined up here so that you can see. They got a little wrinkled. There, this is the differences in the three that I have. Now they are different sizes. This one's 3/8, this one's 1/2, this one's 1/2. These are the same size brush, but from different companies, and you can see the differences in the length of the brush and all of that. This one is a Squirrel Rizlan mix by Silver Company. This is from their Black Velvet line. And this brush came, I think, in a set that I received. And this one is much longer. You can see it's a couple of inches long, where these ones are maybe 1 inch to 1.5 inches long. Now, my understanding was that these shorter ones with the shorter point on them were called dagger brushes, and that these with the longer point on the end were called sword brushes. That's how I learned about them. I mean, that's what I was taught. And some artists believe that this is true. But when you look at the companies themselves, they kind of use the terms interchangeably. I'm sorry, Diesel hears me talk on a video, and he's got to be the star of the show. Hang on. You want to come be on the video? You can sit with me over here, but I know you won't. You're going to play shy and sit over there? He's tilting his head. And he's giving me these little half-mask blinky eyes that he does. I think it's his sexy look. Diesel, come on now. Hang on. I've already forgotten where I left off. But that's how I learned about these brushes, that these longer ones that had the very fine tip at the end were called sword brushes, and then these shorter ones were called dagger brushes, which would make sense because sword brushes or swords are longer than daggers, right? So I think that was the intention at first, but I can't say for sure. The other thing is that these sword brushes were used initially for letterers. People who did lettering, they used these brushes, these long sword brushes with a very fine point, and they got great control with these brushes. But these other dagger brushes would be harder for letterers to use because they don't have that fine point. And I'm going to show you these differences in just a minute. But the other thing is that with artists, many artists feel that using a dagger you can get more brush strokes out of it, different styles of brush strokes out of this brush, whereas this one is used more for striping, and you kind of lose a little more control with this brush. Part of that is because these are synthetic, and then this one is not, and Squirrel is always a floppier brush to work with. But the short stature of a dagger brush helps you to get like leaf and flower petal type looks and less control with the lettering. I think I just repeated myself. Now, I had written some notes in my trusty little YouTube video book where I keep all my notes when I'm doing research. So I just want to check real quick and see if I've missed anything here. But anyway, the only thing I'm not sure if I had stated, but many companies use these terms dagger and sword interchangeably. So you may see that with both. One of the things that I noticed was the Daler-Rowney brush. This brush is a 1/2 inch sword brush, but it's short like this dagger brush by Rosemary and Company. It's not long like this sword brush by Silver Black Velvet. But Daler-Rowney calls this a sword brush. As you can see right here on their, if I can get it to focus, it says it right there. So anyway, this one was called a doesn't say. But this is a Rosemary and Company Series 772 1/2 inch Dagger. And this is a sable blend brush. This one is synthetic, and this is a Squirrel Rizlan blend brush. So anyway, they can be used interchangeably. And that's basically the rule. It just depends on the company and how they name their brushes. But lettering would be more difficult with these shorter tipped brushes than with this one. Now, the difference, you might think, well, if this is called, and they're also called stripers. If this is a striper brush and this is a striper brush, why would you need both? Well, you probably wouldn't. But it depends on what you're painting. The nice thing about these brushes, these sword brushes, is the belly of the brush holds a ton of pigment, and your line can go on for miles. Some sword brushes, some of the larger sword brushes, can get up to a 50-foot line, and that would be important if you're drawing long connected lines, whereas with a rigger brush or striper brush, as these are called, they were named rigger after the riggers on a boat. So the sail, the strings, the ropes that come off of a sail on a sailboat are called riggers. So these brushes were called riggers initially because they were great for drawing the rigging on the boats after you've painted them. You could also do it with this brush though. It would be just as easy because it comes to a fine point. So now I'm going to flip the camera around. Oh, before I do that, I just wanted to show you also that I did this painting really quickly before I started the video, and I finished this painting in under 30 minutes. No lie. This was a very simple and fun exercise to do, and you can turn this exercise or study into a nice painting for someone. And this is all I did. I just drew in my pot and left it unpainted until the end. And then I used a Dagger brush for all of the leaves on this. I did switch to a round brush for the berries, and that was it. But it was a very, very simple painting to do, and I'm going to show you how to do it, okay? So let's go ahead and turn the camera around and get started. Okay. So now I'm just going to use the back of this piece of scrap paper that I had used for redoing my swatches for my palette, and I'm going to show you the differences in the strokes that I can get. Let's start with the sword brush. And one of the things, of course, is the line that you can get from the sword brush. So I'm just going to get some pigment here. Just grabbing a little bit of Peacock Blue by PWC, and I'm making my brush very juicy, and you can see how long a line that I can get with this brush. It goes on and on and on and on and on. And I can keep going. It's still not running out of pigment. Now, I could not get, I'm pressing a little harder now to try to use up the paint, but I could not get this many lines or strokes out of a rigger brush like this. Let me show you. I'll get this brush now and we'll see how much I can get with this one. I'm already running out of paint. See, it's starting to skip. There, I'm out of paint in under 3 lines. The end of the second line here, you can see that I'm already running out of paint here. So, then this striper that I still have in my hand, I have not redipped, and I can still go on and on and on and on. It's still not running out. So you can get, I've probably got about, oh, I don't know, 20 feet with this one, and I'm making thick lines, so I'm not being careful. I'm just painting. Now I'm starting to see a little bit of skipping. Nope, that was just on that one. I'm still getting a lot of lines. So I've proven my point there. We'll move on from that. The other thing that I can do with this brush is grasses. Grasses are nice and easy with a brush like this, and you can get a thicker tip. You know how some grasses come out and then they open up wide and then they get narrow again? You can do that with a brush like this. I'm just going to grab some other paint here, and you can see the thickness and thinness of the line that I get. Let me move my camera a little bit here. I'm sorry I haven't done my nails. I was going to do them before my video and I forgot. You can do the thick lines and then thin them out again. Or then you can do something like leaves. So I do them like this. And I keep the middle open for the vein. That one's a little wide. You can go back in and fix it if you want. Or you can, if you don't want to do it this way, you can make them narrow. Or you can flip them by doing something like this, where your leaf is bending over. And that's one way to do it too. You can do flower petals with them as well. But I'm going to move on to the other brushes now. You can see my control was a little more difficult with that brush. Now that I use the shorter Dagger brush, which is what I'm going to call it for this video, grab some paint here, and I can make my leaves a lot more controlled with the shorter brush. For me, it's just an easier brush to work with. And that's exactly how I did this painting. I was doing that through the whole thing. And then I did some flipping of leaves on the side. So and if I wanted to have a double color on my leaf, I would double load it. Like I'd grab my yellow and then I'd grab a little green at the tip. And then load it on my brush. The reason I put the green on the tip is because it's a darker pigment, and with that darker value, if I had done it in the other direction, the green with the yellow at the tip, the yellow would have ran right through the green and it would disappear. So it's easier to do it that way, but you can do it the other way. Let me see. I'll do the green with the yellow at the tip. Oh no, maybe it was, yeah, this is the, you see the difference. And if you're doing a plant scene like this, you can overlap them by doing lighter leaves underneath and then maybe doing something a little bit darker on top. Or you can put another leaf in behind it to have it come out like that, so it's in shadow. Or bend it. You can also do flower petals. I'm going to switch to the even shorter brush now, the De La Roni one, and you can do flower petals just like that. Now, when I was watching Dagger videos, trying to gain information and see what other artists said about them, I ran across one woman who said turning your paper is bad. Now, she said that she was trained as a purist, so was I, but I was never told I couldn't turn my paper. If you want to turn your paper, turn your paper. It doesn't matter. You're not a bad artist if you turn your paper. Now, I used to have the belief that you could not use any white in your paper or in your painting, because from a purist perspective, you use the white of the paper to have your white. And in juried shows, if you have any gouache or white paint on your opaque paint on your watercolor painting, it is disqualified from a show. So in that regard, yes, but turning your paper, I thought, that is very strange for somebody to say that. I have never heard that in my life. But anyway, I just wanted to share that. I'm going to just do a little daisy here. Now, if you're mixing colors, you can't flip it and do it the other way. I guess you could do it like this. That would be hard for me. I guess it could be done. And then put your little doohickey in the center. And you've got yourself a daisy. And I'll put a stem and some leaves on it. And here's my stem and my leaves. That one's a little broken, but you can fix it. Or you can do one like this. I can't do it that way. Do it like that. There, and you got a flower. But I mostly would use these in a landscape painting or for doing something like this with large leaves. I love it for large leaves. I love it for grasses. And you can do the grasses with a shorter dagger brush as well. Now this is my shortest one. I get a thicker line. Even when I'm pressing lightly, you can see that I get a thicker line. But double loading your brush makes a very pretty effect that you don't normally get with like a rigger. If I was doing that, let me try to double load my brush for this. It's going to be a lot harder to get that effect. See, my green isn't even showing. So basically that's all I did here. So now I'm going to show you how I make this painting. I'll do it in a smaller version. Let me just grab a piece of paper. Actually, I think I'm going to use this paper. My other paper over there is my 100% cotton. So let me tear this off of here. Gotta find the tip. I used to use an X-Acto knife or something else that was sharp in my paper, but I found that I kept scratching the paper underneath on my block. So now I just slide my finger underneath. Make sure your finger's clean though. Mine are usually dirty. And then I just pull it off that way. This paper, like I said, was a Saunders brand. It's Bockingford block. St. Cuthbert's Mill is what it's called. And this is not, it's a mold-made rough paper that I'm using here. And it does not have cotton in it. I bought it by accident. I was looking for Saunders Waterford, and I had looked at it, and I went down the page and saw a cheaper price and clicked. And then I realized afterwards that it was not what I thought it was. So I'm using it for my play around paper. But I'm going to go ahead and use my medium size dagger here. And I'll start by showing you, well, some of the other strokes that you can make too. You don't have to make longer leaves. You can make shorter leaves. I'm trying to think of those ginkgo biloba. Yeah, we'll try a ginkgo biloba leaf. I think they go like this. Something like that. They're a fanned out kind of a leaf like this. So you can make all sorts of different styles of leaves. You could probably do a maple leaf too, but I have to look at maple leaves when I'm doing them because otherwise I can't do it. I'm trying, but I don't remember what they look like. I should have pulled up a picture. There's so many different styles. Oh well, that's the best I got for you. That's some kind of a leaf. It's a Sharon leaf. So anyway, you see that you can do so many different types of strokes with these, but leaves are the most common use for these brushes that I see in watercolor. They're great for making the twisting leaves, like that kind of fold over on themselves, and then you see them underneath like this. Let me try it again. And they come to a point like that. And then there's the stem. This part should be darker. And you can even add paint on afterwards if you like. Keep the top part dark and the bottom part light. Whatever you want to do. So, but you can do that also with double loading. So let's move on to the plant. Now, what I did was I just took a pencil and drew in a pot real quickly. I got paint on my hand here. So, I'll just draw in a pot here. This one's going to be a different shape. Okay, oh, that's a rock. I picked it up thinking it was an eraser. That's my worry rock that I brought back from Lake Superior. I love it because it's got a thumb divot, and I can just go like this when I'm anxious. One of my favorite little rocks that I ever picked up on a beach. I always have trouble with my left side being even with my right side. Do you guys have that problem? I don't know why I do that, but my hand must just draw a certain way. Okay, so now I've got my pot here. I'll make it darker so you can see it. There. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw my leaves in, and then I paint this last. So let me grab my dagger, and I'm going to start with just some greens, and I'm going to put my leaves in, and I'm going to leave a little bit of white there for my vein. And if they close up, it's not a big deal. No big thing. And you can change your colors. But they're very fun to do. And once you've used up a color, maybe grab a different color and make some more leaves. When I get almost done, or when I start to see certain spots fill in, that's when I added my berries. So I'm going backwards here a little bit, but this one needs to come to a point. These are two that are overlapping. There's a stem, there's a stem, here's a stem. Now when you're doing your veins, you can line up your, I'm sorry, I might have been off the sheet a little bit. You can line up your veins by doing one side. Get your one side done, and then kind of drop your brush right on that edge like that, and then just pull down, and you've got a leaf with a vein. Very clever, isn't that a cool? It's just such a fun, mindless activity to do, and you come out with such a pretty result. How about a darker blue to add in here? I'm going to add in some of my Indanthrone blue and put some of my leaves in here. I did not rinse my brush though, so I've got green on my brush. I had a little bit of quinacridone gold on my palette, and that made it green. I will grab my first color. I'll just grab it from here, and then I'll go on the tip and grab some of my yellow, and then do my I like adding some red in here, and I think I'm going to do the berries again, but I'm going to do them in purple this time, or some sort of a blue. I think that'll be pretty. I'm taking a round brush, and I've just gone into a little bit. I made some blue and purple berries here, very simple. Just make a circle and pop them in there. But what else? The other thing that I did here, I'm running out of space on my card for my memory for my video, so I've got to hustle here, but to distinguish the underside from the on the leaves, what I'm doing is just painting this kind of a bluey purple, just like that underneath, just to give them that illusion of the underside being darker. Or you can make them lighter and make the over part lighter, you know, or darker, I mean. But that's all I was doing something like that. And I'm going to finish adding berries, and then I'll do the pot here. I'm going to do the pot in the with my Dagger brush, though. So I'm going to switch back. I'm going to grab some burnt sienna, maybe a little bit of quinacridone sienna, just a couple different colors here. Yikes, I'm going to have to redo that pot. But anyway, be courageous, paint with wild abandon, and most of all, be kind to each other. Bye-bye.